If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. You're listening to the Idaho Students' Murders. This is episode 6. Bryan Kohberger. In the previous episode, we went over the arrest of this so-called individual. I mean, some would probably not want to call him human. And this is, of course, if he is guilty. I do not allege anything is true or untrue. This is the Mindshock podcast, where we approach everything with logic and reason and not presuppositions and hallucinations and logical fallacies like most of the mainstream and most other podcasts. So we will be continuing to look at Bryan Kohberger, the exact methodology of which they happened to nail him or hone in on him. And what else is going on? Did he call into a podcast? We'll be examining that call. Did he post on 4chan? We'll be examining those posts as well. And plenty more in typical Mindshock fashion. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. And again, for the people who are not getting notifications, even when they have notifications turned on, make sure your device allows the notifications to come through. And even more importantly, YouTube algorithm will only push out notifications to people who are active. So make sure you like the podcast and make sure you drop a comment or 2 or 10, and then you'll get further notifications. Also, like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. So let's jump right in here. Let's go to CNN.com. Very, very reliable source. I couldn't get that out with a straight face. But anyway, a grad student at a nearby school is arrested in the killings of 4 University of Idaho students by Josh Campbell, Jim Scioto, Lauren Delval, Mark Morales, and John Miller, CNN. Friday, November 30th, 2022. A graduate student at Washington State University was arrested Friday in his home state of Pennsylvania in last month's killing of 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home, a brutal attack that rattled a small college town, authorities said. A criminal complaint charging Bryan Kohberger, 28, with 4 counts of murder in the first degree as well as felony burglary. That's an interesting charge. He took souvenirs? Was filed Thursday. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson said in a news conference Friday afternoon in Idaho. Authorities narrowed their focus to Kohberger after tracing his ownership of a white Hyundai Elantra seen in the area of the killings. According to 2 law enforcement sources briefed on the investigation, Kohberger's DNA has also been matched to genetic material recovered at the off-campus house where the students were stabbed to death, according to the sources. Genetic genealogy helped investigators identify the suspect, a source with knowledge of the case said. DNA found in Idaho was taken through a public database to find potential matches for family members, the source said. Once potential family matches were found, subsequent investigative work by law enforcement led to the identification of Kohberger, according to the source. Authorities who were trying to find him learned the suspect had left the area and went to Pennsylvania, the 2 law enforcement sources said. Okay, so this is a little bit unclear here. So was the white Hyundai completely irrelevant? And they simply got the DNA? Now, if he's a student and he had been in that house many times for parties or whatever the case may be, what does that DNA prove? Or was this DNA exclusive to the crime scene area? But if it was in the crime scene area, would it also be in, let's say, the living room or other areas? And some speculate this is why he chose that party house. Because the killer, or if it's not him, whoever the real killer is, or if it's a group of killers, whatever the case may be, the reasoning behind choosing the house was it that the DNA could be ruled circumstantial. Then again, why would he be in the bedrooms? So, again, open to speculation there. But was it all a case of DNA and the car was irrelevant? I mean, again, we don't have those details yet. An FBI surveillance team from the Philadelphia field office had been tracking him for 4 days in the area where he was arrested, according to the sources. While he was being watched, investigators from Moscow Police Department and the Idaho State Police Homicide Bureau and the FBI worked with prosecutors to develop sufficient probable cause to obtain the warrant. Interesting. So the FBI was tracking him for 4 days. So they didn't arrest him immediately. They had their eyes on him. Interesting. Once the arrest warrant was issued, the Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI made the arrest. Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry said at the news conference an Elantra has been located, but investigators are still looking for the knife used in the killings. It's all, not the Elantra, an Elantra. He didn't reveal any details about the case, including when the... So is the Elantra... Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of weird. Including when the suspect became the focus of the investigation or whether he knew the 4 students who were killed. These murders have shaken our community and no arrest will ever bring back these young students, Fry said. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process. Fry said it was a very complex, extensive case. We developed a clear picture over time, he said, but be assured that the work is not done. This has just started. So again, would he say that if it was only a sole perpetrator? Maybe. Maybe he would. But if there are multiple perpetrators, then that's definitely something you would say. Authorities at the news conference asked the public to keep calling the tip line with information. Again, is it that they're just trying to build a bulletproof case, or do they know that others are involved? After the suspect returns to Idaho, a probable cause affidavit used to obtain the arrest warrant will be unsealed. Records show Kohberger was arraigned Friday morning in Pennsylvania, and he has a court hearing on extradition January 3rd. Thompson said the suspect is being held without bail, and he's being represented while in Pennsylvania by a public defender. Because the suspect was arrested in Pennsylvania, he has the opportunity to waive extradition and return to Idaho voluntarily. If he chooses not to return voluntarily, Moscow police will initiate extradition proceedings through the governor's office, Fry said. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here, he said. Fellow student says suspect studies criminal justice. According to a news release from Washington State University, Kohberger completed his first semester as a PhD student in the school's criminal justice program earlier this month. I mean, that's kind of chilling, though, because he if it's him, he committed these murders, then he just goes back to class, business as usual. I mean, if this is really the guy, I mean, that's insane. That is definitely sociopathic and insane. Elizabeth Chilton, chancellor of the university's Pullman campus, said the school's police department assisted Idaho law enforcement officials in the execution of search warrants at Kohberger's office and his apartment. A CNN team in Pullman, which is only about 9 miles from the site of the killings, saw law enforcement activity in an apartment complex where graduate students live. We also want to extend our deepest sympathies to the families, friends, and vandal colleagues who were impacted by these murders, Chilton said. We will long feel the loss of these young people in the Moscow Pullman community and hope that the announcement today will be a step toward healing. In a post removed from Reddit after Kohberger's arrest was made public, a student investigators associated with a DeSales University student named Bryan Kohberger sought participation in a research project, quote, to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making while committing a crime, end quote. In particular, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with an emphasis on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience, end quote there. The Post said, it is unclear who wrote the questions for the survey. One of the principal investigators of the study, a professor at DeSales University in Pennsylvania, declined to comment on the matter. Kohberger graduated in 2020 with a bachelor's degree, according to a school spokesperson. In June 2022, Kohberger completed his graduate studies for the Master of Arts in Criminal Justice program, the spokesperson said. The suspect also graduated from Northampton Community College with an associate degree in arts and psychology in 2018, a spokesman for the school in Pennsylvania said. Case shocked small college town. The November 13th killings riveted the nation and shocked the small college town of Moscow, its first murder in 7 years, but not first unusual death or strange death. We went over that in previous episodes. Something weird going on with the fraternities there. And possible suicides and all of these things. The case prompted fear and anxiety in the community and student body, and questions mounted about the pace of the police investigation. Moscow resident Erin Staheli became emotional while expressing herself at the news of the arrest. Quote, it's been very scary not knowing who's out there, Staheli said, noting the fear which had permeated the town of almost 26,000 residents for weeks. I had doubts that the killer would be caught because it's been so long, you know. Staheli praised the work of the police agencies and the FBI for arrest. I knew that they would, but it's just taking so long, and I'm so happy for the families and everybody that's been worried, and that all the students, everybody that may not have come back to school," end quote, she said. The arrest comes a day after police said they have received about 20,000 tips through more than 9,025 emails, 4,575 phone calls, and 6,050 digital media submissions while having conducted over 300 interviews. The slain students, Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, Madison Mogen, 21, Xana Coronado, 20, and Coronato's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, 20, were likely asleep when they were each stabbed multiple times in the early morning hours, authorities have said. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, a coroner has said. Today's news of arrest is a welcome one. It's a relief to our university, our community, and our extended Vandal family, University of Idaho President Scott Green said at the news conference. The outpouring of support over the past 6 weeks helped sustain us during the most trying time. The home where the killings occurred will be cleaned up but will remain an active crime scene under police control, authorities said Thursday. Work at the property was halted Friday due to a court order, the police chief said. What? Moscow police said they have worked with a property management services company to remove potential biohazards and other harmful substances used to collect evidence, the update said. The home will be turned over to the property management company. What? That's kind of weird. Court order? Huh. Okay, well, let's continue here. So let's go to Meow.com. This is by Tuhin Chakraborty, published December 29, 2022. So this is literally the day before the arrest. They have suspects. Retired NYPD cop says Moscow PD may know person behind Idaho murders. Now that's interesting. They have suspects, not suspect. So they have numerous people, but they may know the person, singular. So use both a plural and a singular. This is based on sources, and we have been unable to verify this information independently. That's the Meon disclaimer here. And of course, this is Mindshock, where I do not claim anything is true or untrue. Moscow, Idaho, a former NYPD sergeant reportedly revealed that the investigators probing the Idaho murders may already know who the suspect was and were waiting for the right move to reveal a name. And that's curious, too, because apparently the FBI has been watching him for 4 days. And this is the day before the arrest, and the FBI had been watching him for 4 days prior to the arrest. In a recent interview, former NYPD Sergeant Joseph Giacolone reportedly said the police department always holds back information. They would not provide things that would be detrimental to the investigation. I think they do have suspects of people that they think are involved in this crime. Whether it's an individual or individuals, I do think they have a focus on specific people. The reason why I think that is because of the DNA and all the different things they have taken out of the house. I think they would try to maybe key in on a couple of people. You've got to remember cell phone records, internet records, we saw video surveillance, which I refer to as the 3 forensic horsemen. They are putting these pieces together, he reportedly added. When asked if he thought the case was moving slower than expected, Giacolone said, "That's not the way these cases work. You have a quadruple homicide. This is something that is very time-consuming, and the problem that you are running into is the DNA, is that there might be multiple donors in a house of this kind of situation where we are at a college campus." I mean, I'll mention this again, too, because a lot of people have been talking about this. If the perpetrator or perpetrators, if they really know what they're doing, would they really go into the house in street clothes and leave their DNA? Maybe, because they're already all over the house. Or would they come in some kind of hazmat suit setup? Like some kind of plastic suit? I mean, everything covered up to where they wouldn't leave any DNA. And if that's the case, what does that mean? But continuing on here, I believe they have people they are looking into. They might need a DNA exemplar. They might need to be able to eliminate people. They're going to keep the public, and specifically the perpetrator, guessing. These are not checkers where the police move and the person will win. You have to play chess, right? You are thinking 3 moves ahead. He continued. The Moscow Police Department is facing a lot of pressure to identify a culprit, or at the very least develop a credible lead in the investigation. The Moscow Police Department stated Tuesday, December 27th, investigators believe someone has information that adds context to what occurred on the night of these murders, and continues requesting additional pictures, video, and social media content. Our focus remains on the investigation, not on individuals' activities displayed in the tip. Whether you believe it is significant or not, your information might be one of the puzzle pieces that helps solve these murders. So they're putting this out while Kohberger is already under surveillance and being followed and identified. So what does that mean? According to the Moscow Police Department, digital submissions of tips and leads will not be made publicly available due to their continuous commitment to keep information private, and the information may be significant to the ongoing criminal investigation. So that is very curious. That is very, very curious. And regarding evidence, also on Me here, covered this, Varnica Srivastava, December 28th, 2022, so 2 days before the arrest, definitely some evidence. Web Sleuth shares footage of forensic team at Idaho murder's house. The killings of 4 University of Idaho students November 13th are still under investigation, according to Moscow police. To solve the killings and identify the perpetrator, the FBI and the Idaho State Police are assisting the overworked local police by sifting evidence. More than 1.5 months after the killings, several bizarre theories have been spun on the internet to explain the mystery. Recently, a Twitter user shared a Reddit user's video that shows a group of forensic teams investigating in the murder house. The Twitter user wrote, "Looks like there is definitely some evidence at the crime scene that hasn't been shown to the public just yet, including swabs and photos as seen in this video." In the video, State Police forensics team can be spotted from the angle of the front house window as they actively collect evidence through swabs. The video even captured a photographer taking pictures of purported evidence. Another user wrote, "She has a long swab, leans over, pulls a sample, and then crouches. I'm guessing there is a testing kit on the floor." Another user wrote, "This is the living room area, but I agree there's no way that there's a body there or it would be all covered. I'm guessing possible blood." But again, if the perpetrator did not suffer any wounds and did not leave DNA, I mean, just because they're swabbing all of this, I mean, yeah, people might be reading too much into that, but. All right, so let's move on to more information here. Let's go to tedbauer.medium.com. Idaho 4 murders, a bit more on Bryan Kohberger. What we know and or may know, by Ted Bauer, December 30th, 2022. That post, or rather these 2 posts, are supposedly from 4chan 18 days ago. Here, Annie Elise of, okay, so this is posted by Anonymous, Monday, December 12th, 2022. "I hung their intestines from a ceiling fan and shoved my knife up Kaylee's expletive. I'm hiding in the woods in Expletive Hole, Pennsylvania. Good luck catching me." Now, he also mentions here David is the killer. So David is supposedly there are 2 Davids, somehow connected to fraternities and possible beefs or fights that they might have had with Ethan Chapin. So is this the killer? Is this actually Kohberger making these posts to try and frame certain fraternity members because he's aware that there's some kind of beef or fights going on within the fraternity? Is he also aware of some kind of hazing incidents, et cetera, and he wants to frame it as someone in the frat is responsible for all this? If so, maybe he did a good job, because there's a lot of speculation about that. But let's continue here. Annie Elise of 10 to Life claims it's tied to his sister, who maybe used to live near the house in Moscow. So here's more unverified information. Again, this is from tedbauer.medium.com. So again, I'm not claiming any of this is true or untrue before all the triggered goofs descend on this as all speculation and rumor. Yes, it is rumor. I am not claiming it is true or untrue. Obviously, a certain percentage of rumors are true, a certain are not true. I am not going to hallucinate and pretend I know which is which. So there's a post here which is supposedly from his mother. "As I sat this morning reeling from yet another school shooting, I found myself wrestling with which actions need to be taken to stop all the madness. What is the answer? Gun control measures, ? Mental health intervention, ? Then I received a message from my daughter, who works as a mental health therapist in New Jersey. She shared a poem she had written while in the greatest depths of despair. It shook me to my core, and I felt the need to share it." May 24th, 2022, Uvalde, Texas, written by Melissa Kohberger. "Bereft of their laughter, there is now not a sound. As we lower our children into the ground, small hands and feet, buried 6 feet deep, into the earth of the world that failed them. As I read the poem, I thought, whatever the solution, I pray we consider the children before the gun, by Bryan Kohberger, Albrightsville. So, continuing on with the post here on Ted Bauer, his sister's name is apparently Amanda. She doesn't appear to have any ties to Idaho. The other rumor you hear is that he sold someone tied to the house a car. That might make sense because I've heard he has 2 Instagram. Yeah, there's a rumor that he sold Kaylee her car. One has 0 posts, the other has 1 post, which is just a Joker video. Odd, on the other 0 post account, which could be fake, he seems to follow Kaylee and Maddie. I don't know if he sold her the Rover, but I doubt it. If he sold one of them a car, maybe he drove, so he also has a job selling cars, or was it like a private sale? If he sold one of them a car, maybe he drove over from Pullman to chase some female entanglement that night, tracked them to the corner club where they publicly snubbed him, and his interest in criminology plus blind rage took over. He may have called into T-Rev's show a week or 2 ago as well. That's what we got now. We'll know more as we roll onward. Unseal those arrest warrant, baby. Okay. So let's go to this show and see what we have here. So this is T-Rev 757.
Call from
Dave.
Hey, what's up, Dave? You live?
Hey, what's up, man? Is this T-Rev?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
Not much, man. I found you today. I watched your live earlier this afternoon and been watching this one. And the thing that strikes me kind of weird about all this is that I live in a college town, and I've worked with probably at least 10 Sigma Chi members. And, you know, the one thing that every single one of them I feel like has asked me is, if you were going to kill somebody, how would you get away with it?
Now, this is actually really, really haunting for a few different reasons. First of all, again, purely opinion. That voice kind of matches the guy's mugshot, doesn't he? Doesn't it? Like somebody of that stature, possibly the face. Again, just my opinion. The voice seems to match. Now, again, this is not confirmed that this is the guy. This is all allegedly. For all the Trigger Dunning-Kruger goofs out there. This is all allegedly. If you don't want to discuss any allegations, you're on the wrong podcast. You just wait for the New York Times article and stick to that. Don't go on YouTube. Don't go on any of these social media platforms. It's weird how these triggered goofs get triggered when they know this is speculation in the first place. A lot of Dunning-Kruger going around in the true crime community. But anyway, it seems to match. The other thing is, he's saying that all these is he framing the frat guys? On the other hand, is he saying something that's true? That there's all this conversation about killing and stabbing and all this. I went over this on the previous episodes. The search terms in Idaho, how to get away with murder, spiked in only the days preceding the murders and not the rest of the month. Now, again, I don't have the stats for the rest of the year, but only those few days before the murders, there's all this online activity searching how to get away with murder. And now we have some individual calling in who is mentioning that they're talking about how to get away with murder. This is weird stuff. Let's continue.
And I just wonder if maybe this is nothing more than some kid in a fraternity trying to prove himself.
The other thing that I noticed here, his cadence in his speaking. I mean, again, all this is just pure speculation based on hearing other serial killers talk. He talks very measured, very methodical, with a certain pace and inflection of, like, again, just my opinion, almost sociopathically. This does not seem like a regular average college kid speaking. His tone and delivery and pacing, cadence is all very, very measured and methodical.
And that was it.
So you said you worked with 5 or 6 Sigma Chi kids, and they asked you if you can kill somebody, they can get away with it?
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah. And
Oh my God!
I know that's a thing that just like maybe people say, trying to like have interesting conversation, but like just in my head, it's like it's always been these dudes that were in the fraternity. And so it makes me wonder if it's a thing that's in their like culture that they ask to see how smart you are and whatever, and what kind of answer you come up with, and someone took it too far.
Oh, wow. What kind of dudes would ask you that?
Well,
That's crazy as shit, man. That's an outrageous statement, man. I mean, I'd write their names down.
Yeah, man. Like you know, I like horror movies and all that kind of stuff, and I'll watch those kind of things. But like when someone like in person says some stuff like that, it's kind of like jarring. It's like, what? Why are you saying something
Stop
like
the
that?
cap.
Yeah, that's man. Who said that to you?
Like literally, like I before I even called, I counted on my hands, like how many of these guys I can remember that I worked with at this bar, and there's like 10 of them.
Okay, so this is really weird. Okay, so first of all, he does say like a lot. So for a 28-year-old PhD student, I mean, yeah, not unusual in the year 2022, but definitely slightly less measured than the opening. Then again, if he's getting more relaxed and comfortable with speaking, he might be slightly less measured going into the conversation versus at the very, very beginning. Who knows, though? Now, he's saying about 10 of these guys, these Sigma Chi frat guys. Can anybody else corroborate this? I've actually been talking about this in the previous episodes. Is there either an inside joke or I guess just ongoing talk about killing people, stabbing people? Is this what these guys primarily talk about? And can anybody else verify this? Because if what this caller is saying is true and he really did work with these guys, whether Kohberger or not, whether the killer or not, simply somebody close to these guys, what does this all mean? Because this call rings like there's some kind of insider knowledge. Whether it's the killer or not, maybe this caller really did hang out with some of these frat guys. And if they're all kind of obsessed with murder, death, and stabbing, I mean, that's very, very dark. I mean, I'm sure there's circles of people all over that are kind of obsessed with it and horror movies and all that stuff, and they never actually act on it, so nobody ever thinks anything of these conversations. But is there anybody specifically who can verify that these Sigma Chi fraternity guys are actually talking about all this stuff a lot? And it seems to match the internet searches from Google Trends.
I swear that question has always come up, and it could just be nothing. Like maybe people say that, but I just it makes me wonder if that's a part of that thing, and like someone just took that question and that idea and like took it too far. Like, oh, I'm going to prove to these guys that I'm in the club or whatever.
So let me hear this right. You said you were working with 6 Sigma Chi guys, and they said how could they get away with killing somebody?
Yeah, more like 10. But they would say that to me. They would say like,
You are fake news.
If you were going to kill somebody, how would you get away with that?
And
you know,
what are these guys' names?
Well, I'm not going to.
Let me get like, come on, drop 2 or 3 of them, first and last.
First and last.
That's a broad statement. I mean, you're calling me with this information when you should be on the phone with the police.
Well, I'm in a different state.
I don't care if you're in Mexico. If that's the case, and the people from the Sigma Chi told you that how can you get away with murder? I mean, I'd be on the phone telling them that.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe it's like an exercise of like, You know, if you were going to make pasta for 100 people, how would you like prepare? How would you like execute that? Like, it's not like they're actually asking you because they want to do it. It's more like, how smart are you? How good are you? That's what I'm getting at, is that.
I mean, that's a really interesting dodge of why he's not on the phone with the police. He didn't say, oh, yeah, I already called them and tipped that in. He just completely dodged why he's not, almost downplaying this story. But then why is he even calling it in the first place? I mean, this is all very, very strange.
Maybe they're saying, I'm going to present you with this question and see like how, capable you are like with problem solving and this and that. And maybe somebody at that fraternity took that question and took it too far.
So you're saying, so you were saying you were in Moscow.
No, I wasn't in Moscow. No, I'm in a different state.
So, but you're saying you're in a different state, but you just said Sigma Chi House people. That's how did we get away with murder. So how would somebody ask you that if you're in a different state? Where did that come from?
I guess what
you went from 5 to 10. So I mean, honestly, it doesn't even say, it sounds inconsistent.
No, I worked with at least 10 Sigma Chi members, but it was in a different state, not in Moscow, in a different state. I'm just saying.
Okay, hold on a second. So he definitely implied that he talked, I mean, the way that he phrased it was as if he were in Moscow with specific Sigma Chi guys. Now is he backtracking, or did he just poorly explain in the first place? Or, as some of his high school classmates allege, that he turned into a meth head and he started using meth, and that's how he lost all the weight. Supposedly he was quite large in high school, then all of a sudden he was rail thin. Now, meth use, of course, everybody knows that affects your brain quite severely. So who knows what excessive meth use could do to his particular brain and cause him to kill people. But if this is the arrestee, Bryan Kohberger, and I'm not alleging it is, but if it is, or if it's the killer, is he just backtracking when he's put on the spot? Did he simply want to just play games and gloat almost, like a lot of serial killers do? They do want to talk about it and revel in it, and he didn't, maybe he just didn't expect to be put on the spot like this. Now he's backtracking, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to hang up. He wants is he getting a high from talking about this and he just wants to keep talking about it, so he's got to spin his wheels a little bit? Is this what we're hearing?
Maybe the culture of that fraternity, like they have questions that they ask, and maybe somebody took that question too literally and too seriously as a way to prove themselves.
And what state are you in?
I'm in Utah.
Well, what's interesting, he actually admitted that super quick. He didn't even think about it. I'm in Utah. What does that mean? I mean, that would cast a little bit of doubt, in my opinion, that this is Kohberger, unless he planned to always say that he was kind of close by in Utah, especially if he's in Pennsylvania to throw them off the track. And then again, this 4chan user is claiming he is in the woods in PA. The Pocono Woods, possibly other woods. Now there's a 150, if we're talking U.S., 150th chance that he picks a random state. Why would he even give his state? And and then why would he say he's from Utah if this is him here? Again, I don't know. Maybe he's just screwing around on all fronts and it is him, or it's not.
So, I mean, you can't give up the identity of anybody who asks you that. You don't think that's important to the families that need justice? That, these people that could be there?
I worked with these people. This is probably 10 years ago. I'm not trying to say that I know the literal people. I'm just...
Wow, another backtrack. So you know what's interesting, though? What's kind of interesting is, would a normal person offer that information up front? In a different state 10 years ago, the culture of Sigma Chi or whatever that they're talking about, because he definitely phrased it as if it was recent and as if it was in the Moscow area. Now he's doing so much backpedaling and wheel spinning. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. The Mindshock listeners can drop their own opinion, but let's continue here.
This is more of a me kind of scrutinizing the culture of like you know,
And if it was 10 years ago, I mean, if he's 28, he worked there when he was 18. I mean, he said, I don't know. I really don't know what to make of that. But when asked him why he's not on the phone with police, wouldn't he have offered that immediately? Different state, different chapter or branch of that Sigma Chi fraternity or whatever, different state, and 10 years ago. It's not relevant. It might not be directly relevant. I mean, what is he going to tell police about this? That would be the time to tell them, don't you think? Again, I don't know what to make of it. This is very strange. That's the only thing. That's the main takeaway here. Very, very strange. And even, again, his tempo of speaking is a little off. That doesn't mean anything. There's plenty of people out there like that, but it's interesting.
Secret societies or whatever, like, you know, fraternities, like this club mentality, like, you know, our group and our thing, which I don't have a problem with it necessarily, but it's a thing that's kind of been in the back of my mind through all this.
I mean, that's pretty crazy, man. I'm just trying to figure out, like, who would ask you that and why you wouldn't even report something like that. If somebody asked me that shit, you wouldn't report that to the authorities?
I just kind of thought they were kind of trying to be edgy or something, you know? Like, you know, if you ran over your neighbor's dog, how would you get away with it? Kind of that kind of attitude.
Yeah, but why would that conversation even come about?
I don't know.
It's also kind of weird thing that, like, his brain goes to running over your neighbor's dog. How would you get away with it? That just the fact that he brought up that comparison is kind of interesting. How many sane people have legitimately thought about that and would bring that up offhand? Like, not just to do it. I mean, people might think, oh, accidentally kill something, that would be horrible. But specifically on how to get away with it after you do it, that's a little weird too. This guy's definitely suspect.
That's my thing. That's why it's.
And you're saying you're a teacher?
Stuck with me. I'm not a teacher, no. No, I worked at a bar with some frat boys.
Okay.
But it just makes me wonder if the culture of fraternities and that kind of thing, you know, the things that they do, maybe it went too far.
I don't know, man.
Does that sound like a thing? Have you heard anything like that, or I don't know?
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I just don't understand how. First of all, how old are these people that you were working with? How old do you think they are now?
A lot of them are probably in their late 30s, early 30s. And I don't think they had anything to do with this. I'm just wondering more about, like, if the Greek, you know, the fraternity, sorority thing, like, if they've got stuff going on in there that, like, someone feels like they got to prove themselves, and they take a benign kind of question that's more about trying to, you know, ask you like to prove yourself, you know, how smart you are, and they took it too far.
Okay.
I mean, it is kind of weird. He keeps bringing up the same things. Prove how smart you are. Took it too far. He reiterated that so many times. If this was an innocent call, wouldn't he have just given that and then hung up and that's that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this guy likes to talk maybe, but yeah, this is definitely one of those off calls. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. Again, I'm not stating this is Kohberger. I'm not stating Kohberger is actually guilty of anything. But if he is guilty, that doesn't mean he's the caller either. But a lot of strangeness, definitely a lot of strangeness here.
Trying to think here, man. So are these people that you seen on a regular night basis at where you worked at the bar? Or are these people that you know?
Yeah, I worked with them.
So, how do you know? And you said you never lived out there. So
no.
How do you know they went to the Sigma Chi?
Because they did, because I know they did. Like some of them lived at that house in Utah where I live. I just, I'm not saying that all fraternity members are murderers. What I'm saying is like maybe questions like that and things,
No. I get what you're saying on that end. I'm asking you, how do you know they were at the Sigma Chi? Because if you live in Utah, how do you know all these 5 to 10 guys went to the Sigma Chi? In case you're friends with them, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I worked with them, and then I'd actually been up to their house at like some parties before.
Okay.
It wasn't.
I'm not trying to back on you, but I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to grasp how you knew these guys, or you get what I'm saying? I'm trying to grasp how you knew they went to the Sigma Chi. How? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, some of them lived there, and I went up there and like hung out, and like they were all nice and everyone was pretty cool. I'm wondering if there's like a thing, because they have secret things they do in those fraternities.
Is this just some partially drunk guy, and that explains the cadence of speech, or possibly on some kind of psychedelics or other types of drugs? That's why his pacing is this way. That's why he's not just randomly hanging up. He really is just, some kind of high guy that isn't connected to the case in any way, and just thinks that there's some kind of conspiracy involving all fraternities, not just Moscow. I suppose that could explain it as well, if it's not Kohberger or someone connected.
And it makes me wonder if, like, questions like that, like, if you were going to murder somebody, how would you get away with it? That's maybe more trying to, like, figure out, like, how smart you are. Somebody took it too literally and thought they could prove themselves. That's kind of my only thing. And that's why I don't know. That's why I called.
I'm just trying to figure out, I'm really, really, really just trying to figure out how you knew that. First you said 5 and then it jumped to 10.
No, it was 10.
Well, first you did say 5 though.
Oh.
You said 5 guys and then you jumped up to 10. And I'm just trying to figure out how you knew that. I don't know the Sigma Chi like that. All I know is this Sigma Chi house is in Moscow, Idaho. So
yeah, and I'm not saying that Sigma Chi's are murderers. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No. I didn't say you were saying that, but to say that they asked how do you get away with a murder, that's just it's a broad statement.
Yeah, man. It's a jarring thing to hear. It's like, what? Like, we're having some beers. Why are you asking questions like that? That's, and I don't think they were asking for advice. I think it was more of a mental exercise. But to me, it's like not that. It's not a cute question. It's messed up.
Right. Huh. No, I see what you're saying, but I mean, you did say 5 at first and then changed it to 10.
Well, okay. Well,
you did. I'm just saying you did. I pay attention to what people say.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
But I mean, I don't. Maybe it was 6, 7, 8. I don't. Maybe you can't retract all the way and just said 5 because you were nervous. I have no idea. I don't.
I am nervous. I don't normally like call into things and do this kind of thing, but like this has been a thing in the back of my head after like hearing about this stuff for the last few weeks, and I don't know. I just wonder if if this was even more senseless than a jealous boyfriend or whatever. Like if it was just someone trying to prove themselves and that's it.
Right.
And I don't know. Maybe this is an inappropriate call for your show, but I just
I mean, you said Sigma Chi guys, but I mean, if they're in their 30s, it wouldn't. I'm pretty sure most of these other dudes are what? Are they any of them that go to the college now?
Oh no. I'm saying they're probably in their 30s now. at the time that, I worked with these guys like 10 years ago.
That's the.
I'm not trying to say it's any of these guys. I'm more just going. I'm just trying to say like maybe that they have the culture of fraternity life has weird questions and weird stuff that comes up, and maybe that's what motivated someone to do something like this.
Right. Now, just when I hear something like that, when I hear something like that, you're like 5 to 10 dudes. You did say 5, and then you changed it to 10, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that you're just nervous. But I put it like you were like, they asked you how they can get away with murder or killing somebody or whatever. That just strikes me as super odd that somebody would even ask you that,
Yeah, they asked me like, how would I do that?
Yeah, how would I? Yeah, how would you do that? That's just
I'm like, I don't know. I don't think about stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
He doesn't think about stuff like that, yet he immediately made an example of you run over your neighbor's pet. How would you get away with it? I mean, I don't know. That just ran right off his tongue without a pause. I mean, I don't know. Kind of weird. Or is he saying he doesn't think about stuff like that because he actually does? Again, a lot of psychological possibilities here.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I thought I'd throw out there. Anyways, I subscribed, and I've enjoyed like listening to your live stream and everything. So thank you. I'll let you get to the next caller, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Keep up the good work, dude. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Oh no, that was a little weird for me, but anyways. I heard many contradictions in that, and that ain't attacking nobody, by the way. That's contradictory is what I heard, but hey.
All right, so another possibility too is if this is a current frat guy in Moscow and he wants to blow the whistle on something he may have heard, or did he hear something, he thought it was a joke, then there's a quadruple homicide, and then he's like, wait a second, these frat guys really were talking about something. Would he call into a show and then change the story to, this is 10 years ago in a different state, and yet it's some kind of prove yourself, talk about how do you get away with murder or killing somebody, and it also happens to match these high frequency of calls in the Moscow, Idaho area, where there's usually zero searches, and all of a sudden it's spiking in the days before the murders. Is this possibly a frat member or someone close to the frat guys who's trying to give clues without giving it away and change the story? Or, of course, maybe this is the arrestee, Kohberger. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's pretty weird. Definitely a weird call across the board, no matter how you look at it. Now let's talk about one more strange factor here. The suspect shot and killed in a SWAT standoff near the Washington State University campus after threatening to kill roommates. Now, this was, of course, all written off as unrelated back December 15th, 2022. This is KREM.com. Suspect shot, killed in SWAT standoff near WSU campus after threatening to kill roommates. Washington State University alerted students on the south side of campus to shelter in place early Thursday morning because of SWAT situation. Pullman police said one man is dead after a SWAT situation that forced a shelter in place near Washington State University overnight. Police were called to apartments on the 1000 block of Lata around 8:37 p.m. Wednesday night, where they say a man in his 30s was threatening to kill his roommates. The two roommates were safely removed from the apartment. Police said the suspect barricaded himself into the apartment and fired several shots. Police evacuated other people in the area. Police said the suspect's behavior continued to escalate and he was shot by a SWAT team member. The suspect was found dead inside the apartment. So how often are SWAT shootouts occurring at Washington State University? Now, I'm not saying this is connected to the Idaho University quadruple homicide here, or Kohberger. But did this guy know Kohberger? I mean, how many people are snapping here? It's kind of curious. This is all happening within several weeks of each other, especially if it's not common. So if there aren't usually SWAT standoffs near a campus where supposedly a quadruple homicide murderer is residing, I mean, it's all kind of strange. It's kind of strange. Again, I'm not saying it is related, but that seemed to disappear from the news quite quickly. Now, yeah, it just so happens that this guy also went to Washington State University. Just so happens it's a quadruple homicide. Then a guy being killed by SWAT at next to Washington State University. This is all within a few miles and a few weeks of each other. Does anybody else find that too coincidental? Again, I'm not saying it is or it isn't coincidental, or it is or it isn't related. This is Mindshock, where the motto, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Plenty more to come. I mean, this is truly a mind-shocking case, but the good thing is it's moving, regardless of whether or not this guy really is the killer, whether or not he acted alone. The fact that this is all moving is definitely a good sign. It is not going cold. So as long as it's moving forward, people can continue to theorize, question, rule out, rule in, possibly if there's enough evidence, and continue the discussion and awareness until, of course, the court trial happens and someone is found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or if there's multiple perpetrators, they're all found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Until that moment, there is no justice. Despite the gullible goofs going crazy, getting triggered by everything left and right on social media, it's not over until everything follows the letter of the law. If there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of one or more than one perpetrator, and they are all convicted within legal bounds, then justice will be served. Until then, it has not been served. And a lot of the law enforcement bootlickers out there think law enforcement can never make mistakes or ever get things wrong. I mean, just because a guy was arrested, I mean, this is really far from over. So this is Mindshock, where we don't fall for logical fallacies. Dunning-Kruger goofs are not welcome here in terms of logical discussion. I don't want to say they're not welcome here. They are welcome here. We love laughing at Dunning-Kruger goofs. I mean, this podcast wouldn't exist without the Dunning-Kruger goofs. So they are very well appreciated. But in terms of actual logical discussion, Dunning-Kruger goofs aren't taken seriously here, is the correct phrasing there. But hope everybody found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you like and subscribe and have your notifications turned on. And make sure you leave plenty of comments so those notifications will actually go through. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. You can also check us out Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.